to Speak Life, your uplifting Christian podcast with hot topics and inspiring special guests. I'm your host, Shane Franks. Hey guys, welcome to the episode. This episode is brought to you by Grant's Golf and More from Casa and Honey Baked Ham. And once again, thank you for being here with us. And we've got a special guest, Jennifer Page, and she's going to share a lot of her testimony. She's been through some interesting things, and I just love bringing people on the show that come from different walks of life, because we all have our own story. And if y'all hear a little bit of music in the background, you'll just have to ignore it. It just is what it is. I'm not in quite a studio setting yet, but we're going to roll with it anyway. But how are you, Jennifer?
I'm wonderful. How are you tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. I actually pulled her away from something that she was doing, and I appreciate you taking the time to be on here.
I appreciate it, and it's definitely something I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later. Okay.
Well, let's go ahead and get us started, because testimonies are very important. Like I said, there's everyone has been through different walks of life, but it helps when we get our story out there. First of all, it helps us, because there's a lot of people that have never taken the opportunity to express their past. First of all, it's good just to get those things off your chest. Second of all, it helps someone else realize that they're not alone in certain feelings, feeling desolate, destitute, isolated. But I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you tell me a little bit from the beginning?
So it's funny that you say that about sharing testimonies. Heath and I were talking last night about, how far we've come.
And who is Heath?
Heath is my husband.
Okay.
Been married to him since I was 22 years old. But we were talking about, where we are in life and where we're going. And I shared with him, I saw this thing, and the man said, apples don't eat apples. Oranges do not eat oranges. Your fruit is not for you.
Yeah.
Your fruit is for somebody else.
Right.
It's for you to nourish their spirit. It's not for you to your fruit's not for you. Mm-hmm. And I thought that hits really hard.
Yes, it does.
So that's where your testimony is not just your testimony. It's for someone else. It's to bring life into someone else's life.
That's right. Absolutely. And so I told you that I'm going to pretend like I don't know a whole lot about your testimony, even though I do, but I want you to start and I want you to start in a place that a lot of our testimonies do begin, because the reason why children are so precious and so special is because they're so they're so absorbent of their environments. True. And it makes them what they are. If they're around positivity, they become positive. If they're around negativity, they tend to become negative. And the devil is after the children at a very early age, and we Christians, we need to be doing the same thing for Christ. Adolf Hitler said, "If you want me to control the nation, just give me control to the school books, and I'll take it from there." That's basically what he said. So let's start off with your childhood, and what was that like?
So a lot of people don't have early memories of their childhood. I, however, have memories of my childhood. Some of my earliest memories are when I was 3 and 4. My mother was having an affair, and I remember looking up. I was at the barber shop with my father.
And which mother was this?
My biological mother.
Okay.
We won't name names on that, but
of course.
So she was having an affair with her high school sweetheart, who she had fallen in love with when she was 15.
Yes.
And I was at the barber shop with my father, and he knew who this man was.
Yes.
And I was watching something on TV at the barber shop, and I said, "That looks like so-and-so." Mm-hmm. And that he knew I had never been exposed to this man. Yeah. That I had never been around him. So he knew that she had taken me around him. Mm-hmm. So I remember that. I remember our house burning down. These are things that led up to the day that she left. Yeah. Her story conflicts with what my father says, but I also remember the night that my father came and got me. Yeah. I was in bed, and I was with her mother and her mother's husband at the time. And I remember him getting me in the middle of the night and taking me. Mm-hmm. And me being scared because I didn't know, and my brother was there, and I didn't know what was going to happen with my brother.
Yes.
And so,
Where's your brother now?
in a completely different walk of life. That's God's grace. Had I been raised in the household that he was raised in,
Yeah.
I could very well be in the occult more so than I dabbled, and or dead, because I mean he was in a horrific car wreck when he was 16,
Yeah.
and lost his arm. And
Wow.
the crazy thing is he's the only one that was injured in that wreck.
Wow.
Everyone else walked away. He almost lost his life. And instead of giving his life to God in that moment, he did turn to the occult, and he does practice the dark arts of witchcraft and Wicca, and Lord only knows what. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, he has an air of darkness about him. Even in seeing him, you kind of just know.
Right.
Yeah.
When's the last time that you've seen or heard from him?
It's been several years. He lived with Heath and I for a short time.
Yeah.
And it's a miracle that there wasn't any more attachment of darkness and left in my home, dark residue, I guess is what you
Right.
could call it, left in my home than there probably was.
Yeah.
Because of the life that he chose to live. After he lived with us, he went back to live with my biological mother. In the end, he was homeless for a while. He has no ties to things of the earth, and as we should not.
Right.
But he doesn't desire anything more than just a tent, the woods.
Yeah.
He's fine digging in the dumpster, and not that the earthly things are going to go with me, but
Right.
I also like creature comforts.
Right.
I need an air conditioner. I'm not built. I'm not built for the heat. I'm built for
I
comfort.
got you.
So I didn't see my biological mother from that point really until I graduated. Well, until right before I graduated high school.
Yeah.
She became an over the road truck driver.
Okay.
After her and my father split, and so I didn't see her. And there was that opened an abandonment wound in me that I still even sometimes battle.
Yeah.
And I'm 40.
Yes.
But even if I know my husband's supposed to pick me up at a certain time, if he's not there, I feel that little girl inside me kind of panic that I've been left. So that's opened up it opened me up to a sense of abandonment. Am I going to ever be good enough? Is anyone going to love me or want me, or is everyone going to leave?
Yeah.
So it makes me want to cry. So I do
be
apologize.
yourself. You're okay.
So I didn't see her again. And I became a very entitled young little girl who was spoiled by her father. If I wanted a bunny rabbit out of the yard, he would chase it down and catch it for me. If I wanted a turtle.
He must have been quick.
When he was younger. When he was younger. Not so much now. But, so, I mean, he wasn't there, but when he was there, it was kind of enchanted because I felt like I was his whole world.
Yeah.
So we lived with my grandmother at that time, and her husband was supposed to be a preacher, but nobody really knew the man that he was. And he molested me from an early age.
Okay.
And would still carry me up on stage to sing the gospel.
Wow.
And finding out later in life, he also had molested my aunt.
Wow.
And nobody protected me from that. And then I found out that he also had a crush on my biological mother.
Wow.
So, as I've aged and learned how to cope with these scars from my past, I'm like, was that a sense of he couldn't have her, so he took me?
Yes.
So, and then probably after the age of 4.5.
Did that cause you to question authority? Because that was a person that was supposed to be a person of high authority, and also a person that was supposed to be secure, and and like, did that start to make you look at people like in that position, with more, just of a questionable perspective? Or
I think it gave me a trust issue. Like, can I trust that you are what you say you are?
Yeah.
Because I traveled to tent revivals with him.
Yes.
I remember being up on stage and him singing and with the group the people. It was at a church. Like I said, I don't know why I have these early memories, because I was probably no more. My biological mother left when I was 3. So from the time I was 3 to 4, we lived with my grandmother and him. So for about a year. And I have memories of things that, I have memories of, we had chickens. I have memories of her spanking me because of chasing chickens. So, but with him, I think the thing was, it just made me wonder, can I trust you?
Yeah.
Are you going to be what you say you are?
Did that cause confusion inside of your mind? Like, is this something that's supposed to be normal? And like, did it awaken something inside of you that wasn't supposed to be awakened?
I think that it gave me a lustful spirit.
Okay.
And curiosity at an early age about sexual things that at 4 and 5, I shouldn't have had a question of things, of what that was.
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of followed me from there, just being curious. So after we moved out from my grandmother's house, my dad met my mama.
Okay.
And she
and just so everybody knows, the mama that you're speaking of now, that's not your biological. That is what who you come to know her and call her mama.
Right. A mama is not just your blood.
Right.
When I'm sick, even as a grown adult, she was who I would look to help me when I needed appointments made. She wasn't my flesh of my flesh or blood of my blood, but she was my mother. She used to tell me, you didn't grow under my heart, but you did grow in my heart.
Yeah.
And she would say she loved me the purplest. That was one of our favorite sayings, and there was a book about that that she used to read. But so he met her, not in the greatest of situations, because she was married at the time, but sometimes God takes those moments and works them in ways and weaves things into ways that we may not see. So he met her. We moved in with her.
Yeah.
And
it took a little bit of a process of y'all getting used to each other, did it not?
It
blending
did.
of families?
It did. She used to always remind me that when the first time I met her, that I was a fat little girl. I had just gotten rid of the worms from eating the dirt. That's a whole other story, right?
Wow.
So I was a fat little girl, and she said I put my hands on my hips and stomped my foot, and said, "You will take me to my Aunt Jean's," which was my father's sister, and so I was bossy.
Yeah.
But again, there was a sense of enchantment that I was his world, and I was going to tell him what to do.
Yeah.
So it did take a while for us to blend, but she saw that curiosity in me at a young age with it came to sexuality. That's where I was going with this.
Okay.
I remember we lived in this little cracker box trailer. It was teeny tiny. My bed was actually like a half bed almost like a bunk bed hanging from a wall.
Yes.
Going down the hallway to the main bathroom.
Right.
And in Mom and Dad's bedroom. But we've all seen Skinamax. And she said, I was staring at the TV, and she was trying to get me to go to bed. And it was a naked woman on the Skinamax channel that I had flipped it to. And she's like, you were just zoned in. Of course, I got in trouble for looking at it. But that early lust and sexuality from being molested was still something that was ingrained in me.
Right.
So that's what that opened up. So now we have abandonment and lust and early sexual thoughts in a child.
Were both of your parents were they in church at the time?
No.
Okay.
No. But I grew. No, but the foundation for who I am and where I am was already laid.
Okay.
I was in church with my grandmother, despite who her husband at the time was.
Yes.
She was a good woman.
Okay.
I don't believe that she knew what he was doing. So that foundation was already being laid to be in church.
Yeah.
So my mom, she was actually an evangelist, and she had some of the most amazing testimonies. So
Yeah.
the foundation for the path that I was supposed to be on,
Yeah.
had already also started with her.
Mm-hmm.
So they got together. They had my beautiful sister. We, lived a very simple and meager life. They didn't work, so they were always there.
Yeah.
You never had to worry if somebody was going to be home. We were not lock key or latchkey children. We were always driven to school, except when I got to high school. But still, nobody wants your mama to drive you to high school. But so when I was about 15 or 16, this is a story that Mama told me about how she came back to God. She was sick. I didn't know the woman was sick.
Yeah.
And she, I don't know if she had pneumonia. I don't know what she had, because I don't really remember her ever being sick.
Yes.
At that time in my life.
Right.
And she said she was laying on the couch. Now we had went to church a time or two before this, because once you have that calling on your life, you can't really run too far from it.
Our calling is without repentance.
Yeah, without your heart being pulled back.
Yeah.
So she said she was laying on the couch, and she was sick, and she thought she was going to die.
Wow.
And she said that she prayed, God, if you will heal me,
Yes.
I will run
Mm-hmm.
and make up the years that I've wasted. So, and again, I have no recollection of her being sick.
Right.
I would have never known. But so she started going back to church, and we got into church. Fairly heavy.
Yeah.
My mother was a doer.
Yeah.
You if you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Right.
Kind of moment.
Right.
So we went to church, and she was the church mom. She would do all the cooking, all the cleanings, and be at all this stuff. So that foundation was being laid throughout me being helpful to her in her ministry. If there was a benefit singing, we were out hustling up stuff to help raise money for people who had cancer or had a need in their family.
How was y'all's prayer lives as a family?
So after we got back into church, we prayed every day at noon.
Okay.
If you were out of school, and so when she got back into church, I was 15, 16. So I was in high school by this point. But if you were out of school every day at 12, the whole world stopped in your home. Or in someone else's home if you were there, because we would go do Bible study and prayer group. So at 12, the TV's turned off. Cell phones were not a thing. That makes me sound so old. But
Y'all pulled the rotary phone out of the wall?
we took the cordless phone and turned it on and laid it to the side where it wouldn't ring.
Got you.
So, and the whole world stopped, and we would pray for an hour. And I would give...
She prayed in the Spirit a lot, too, didn't she?
Yeah, that's what I would give anything to have recordings of her praying now, just to, I don't know, the authority in which she spoke.
Yeah.
Was and she said when I finally got the gift of the Holy Ghost, with evidence speaking in tongues, she told me that it would be like a lion that would rise up in me, and she was not wrong with that.
Yeah.
So she would pray in the Spirit. I mean, I said that she had a great ministry. So she had been to Guyana after the Jim Jones incident.
Yes.
Her plane was hijacked.
Her plane was hijacked.
They wouldn't let them off the plane because they thought they were part of the Jim Jones cult.
Oh.
So she
That's
traveled.
because she had grape juice, right?
She might have had some Kool-Aid in her pocket.
Must
I don't
have
know.
Something.
But
Too soon.
It's been a few years. But she had a great ministry and a great testimony with that. And I mean, God would give her phone numbers, and she would call people and begin to minister to them and pray for them and prophesy into what was going on in their lives. And when she went to go to Guyana, I remember she said that
And that is where the Jim Jones
yeah
thing occurred. Mhm.
yeah when she went to go to Guyana, one of her stories that I always loved to hear was she was praying for money because
Yeah.
this was what, early 80s,
Yeah.
late 70s. She was praying for money, and she needed money for her plane ticket. She
Correct.
had a budget that she knew she needed, and she said that she had a knock on her door, and it was this little old lady that she had went to church with at Lucky Street Church of God, and she told her, God had told me, the little lady, God told me months ago to start taking X amount of money out and putting it in this brown paper sack.
Yeah.
And he would tell me what to do with it.
Yes.
And he spoke to me this morning to give it to you. And I
Yeah.
said, God, if you'll let me off work by 12 o'clock,
Yeah.
I'll come give this to Sister.
Yeah.
And that she said it wasn't long after that, her boss said, the lady's name was Mary. Mary, if you'll get done, we'll leave early today. We'll get off our work early. And she was able to sow that money into my mother's ministry.
Wow. Talk
For
about
her.
obedience.
And I mean, it's just a simple act. I mean, it wasn't probably a whole lot of money a week.
But basically, though, if we will seek God, God will move mountains.
Yeah, there's nothing that he won't do for us. Out of obedience to him.
Yeah. It's our lack of commitment, and it's our excess of sin that gets in the way of that, because he wants everything he wants. There is a little church that is in, let me get this right, Menlo, Alabama, and it's got a huge boulder towards the back of it, and I'm pretty sure that you've seen it as well.
I think so, yeah.
And the wooden border above the top, the pastor's wife, and this place is a couple hundred years old, and her favorite saying was up there. It says, God was always as good to me as I would let him be.
That speaks multitudes.
But go ahead and continue. I want to hear a little bit about where your spirituality was, but I know at some point you had walked away from that.
So, the foundation was laid for my current walk with God now.
Yeah.
Early in my life and throughout my adolescence, I knew who God was. God had spoke to me. Before I backslid and decided I was going to move out of my mom's house.
Yeah.
I was running the coder. I was an inspector. And the Spirit of God was so heavy on me one night. I was speaking in tongues that could not speak.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was able to call my mother from the office and tell her to come get me.
Yeah.
I was praying in tongues and it was a very heavy burden.
Yes.
I didn't know that it was the burden for my own soul.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, I
do want to explain to people that may not be familiar with speaking in tongues. The Holy Scripture says that when you are praying in tongues, it's the Holy Spirit praying in your behalf, because we do not always know what needs to be prayed for, but the Spirit does.
Yes. So, she came and got me. I fell on my face when I walked through the door of the house and just wailed before God. And I didn't know, again, that I was grieving my own soul.
Yeah.
Because I was backsliding. I had been doing things I should not have been doing.
Yeah.
And telling lies. And it's not a big sin or a little, it's sin is sin.
Yeah.
So, I was actually dating my supervisor at the time. And so it wasn't but a short few weeks. I devised a plan and I moved out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't but a short few weeks after I moved out that much older man that I thought loved me, left me.
Jeez.
So
Set you up for a fall, didn't it?
yeah. So there I was, broken. Somebody who's already got abandonment issues was
Of
more
course.
broken.
When you left, if I remember right from what I'm told, you actually left a letter for someone at your house.
I left a letter for my sister
Yeah.
because my sister is my best friend.
Yeah.
That's going to make me cry. And I didn't,
Go ahead and cry ugly. Nobody can see you.
It's okay.
This is pure audio.
yeah. But I didn't know, looking back, I did not know the impact of me leaving would have on her. And in knowing in knowing that now, I feel very selfish. But that's part of self, not what our life is to God or to other people, but what's going to please me, what's going to please my flesh.
Well, and just speaking naturally, and just I'm a realist. Even though you might have left for the wrong reasons, that doesn't mean that God wasn't behind it, because you had to go find your own independence and become your own person.
True.
And the first step might not have been in the correct direction, but still.
So here I am living with my cousin and brokenhearted over this man.
Which cousin were you living with?
Lori.
Lori, okay.
Yeah. Living with her and her husband and her young son. And living there and staying up. I worked second shift, so I could stay up all night and sleep a few hours and go to work. Drinking, all the things that seemed fun, all the things that my spirit was grieved over, that I didn't know that I was on the path for, really.
Yeah.
So, I'm alone. I've left. I've broke my mother's heart. I've broke my sister's heart. Not that my dad didn't care, but my dad had changed quite a bit throughout my childhood, and depended on my mom to be that figure in our lives.
Yes.
So, get onto online dating, and thankfully I didn't meet a complete creeper. When I talk about how I met my husband, I like to say that he was the most respectful man.
Nice.
Other men that you meet online, youngsters, if you're listening, they're going to send you inappropriate pictures.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because that's always a great turn on for a woman.
So, this man never done that.
Nice.
He never talked out of the way to me. He never was sexually suggestive.
Yes.
He never put me in a position that I felt compromised as my morality. Because even though I was living in sin, but I still have a very strong moral compass as to what is right and wrong.
You always felt like the choice was yours.
Correct. So,
and for the men listening, that's, first of all, sex out of marriage, that's not God's way anyway. But also,
correct.
a woman should never feel pressure from a man for nothing. She has that no card, even if it means, I'm not comfortable holding hands. When you hear that no, you back away. Correct.
And I mean, again, having been molested and stuff, for a man, because that's what I knew of men, and that that's what they wanted. That men wanted that, and that's all I had a value for a man from a young age. So for him to respect me and not push that boundary was beautiful. So I feel very fast for him.
Was he good looking too?
Oh, I knew them. So we have the weirdest love story, honestly. We have the most redneck love story.
We just added 10 more minutes to this episode.
Sorry. We met online. Our first date was at the Waffle House.
Oh, the Waffle House.
We're classy.
Was this cousins.com or what?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, great.
We're classy. So, I worked second shift, so we met at the Waffle House after that.
Hopefully it wasn't second shift at the Waffle House.
It was 11 o'clock at night at the Waffle House.
Okay.
And I knew the moment the man walked through the door that he was my forever. Not that our love story doesn't come with heartaches and trials. So we met.
So you both ordered your hash brown scattered and splattered, and you knew it was love at first sight.
Oh, yeah, yep. That's
awesome.
exactly it.
Okay.
And he let me get a waffle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Chocolate chips?
Pecan.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for not calling it pecan. I'd throw you out of this podcast right away.
So I knew he was going to be my forever. We met. I fell very early. We moved. I moved in with him, and then we just up and moved to Florida.
That quick?
Within a year.
Within a year. Okay.
Within a year.
Okay.
We moved to Florida together. I was smart. I didn't move unmarried. I moved engaged.
Okay.
Because I knew if something happened.
Yes.
It sounds so terrible. I got a really nice ring, and I knew if something happened, I
Yes.
could always pawn or sell that ring
And find your way back
and
home.
get my way back
Get
home.
out of here.
But-
It's just like the sailors that had the gold earrings, so that way if they died, they could be at least pay for their burial. Get out of here.
It was.
You're making sure you weren't buried in Florida. I get it.
I knew I was gonna. I knew I would need a way back home. So
Well,
that
things are
was.
expensive in Florida, so I hope it was one heck of an engagement ring.
It was a very nice engagement ring.
Nice.
But that was.
You didn't lose it, did you?
Okay, that's another story.
Ooh, I just
Sorry.
covered something. I don't have insider information.
None at all. But so.
Did you lose it in Florida?
No, I lost it when we moved back to Georgia.
I was about to say, if you lost it in Florida, I'm glad things worked out because you would have been up the creek without a
Up the
paddle.
creek. No. So, moved to Florida, started life, and we moved to this little town called Chattahoochee on the Apalachicola River. We don't know anybody. We have no sense of security. But
Well, you knew Alan Jackson.
you're such a goob.
Go ahead.
So, God has a way of working things in the background, and even now, as I'm just thinking of this, how it's coming to light to me.
Yes.
So we lived on this road called Lorraine Avenue, and it wasn't but 3 blocks. There was this church.
Yeah.
And it was a Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't even remember why we ended up there,
Yeah.
but we did. And we started going to church there. And we rededicated our lives together to God there. And we started teaching Sunday school to the
Yeah.
youth there. And so that foundation that was laid early came right back around
Nice.
to that point in my life. And this was 2007, 2008. So we foolishly buy this house, and with that comes the payment of a house, and then
Yes.
the market crashes. So then we're homeless.
Yeah.
We don't have anywhere to go.
Wow.
I had barely just learned to drive, and he's the only one working in our household. So we moved in with a family there, and
Yeah.
they took us in like we were their kids. They took care of us.
Yeah.
They saw that we were fed. They saw
Yeah.
that we had a place to stay, a place to live. They took us in like we were their own.
Yeah.
And they had done that throughout their marriage. So they sowed into our lives in a beautiful way.
We're the Christian people.
Yes.
And-
they lived right next door to the church. Like you could
Yeah.
throw a rock and hit the church. It was actually the parsonage for the church, but the pastor chose not to live there.
Yeah.
So we live there. He gets a better paying job. I get a job in collections. A 10 out of 10 do not recommend. But my past had prepared me for that, because remember, I was hustling
Right.
stuff for benefit singings and,
Yes.
and learning to speak through my mother laying that foundation and me not being fearful to speak to people. So that foundation was laid as well.
Gotcha.
Everything's coming together in those pieces. So we moved to this awful little house in the boonies.
Yeah.
And listen, Florida is not summertime all the time. And in that panhandle,
Yes.
it's definitely not. So no heat. So we're sleeping on a mattress on the floor by the heater to stay warm.
Jeez.
So again, our marriage is not one without heartache.
Right.
So by this time I'm 22, 23, and most women, as you know, because you're married, we have a plan for our lives.
Of course.
So by this point, I'm married. Yeah, my house is terrible, but I'm ready for a baby.
Right.
I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
So we prepared a nursery in this little house. I got a bed from a friend of mine down there, whose toddler had outgrown it.
Yes.
And we painted the wall of the second bedroom that we had there. We created a nursery. I was laying the foundation for that because that was my heart's desire.
Right.
I didn't have the biological mother that I desired, the relationship with her that I desired.
Yes.
which we skipped over that she came back into my life. But, and not that I don't love her, but she is my friend.
Yeah.
She came back into my life when I was about 18, departed again, and then came back into my life when I moved to Florida when I was 23.
Seems like moments of convenience, maybe.
Milestone moments, maybe, where God was like, small doses.
Okay.
Just so you can recognize that she's not the foundation that you truly need.
Got you.
Possibly.
Okay.
So, and if you hear this, I'm not trying to be ugly or hateful to you. I'm just telling the truth.
Your testimony.
The truth of what's in my heart. So, where was I at? Living in Florida, wanted a baby.
Yes.
So we prepare, and God doesn't give me a baby.
Yes.
I've laid this foundation, and God didn't give me what I wanted.
Right.
And I'm mad.
Okay.
I'm mad because I'm a good person.
Yes.
Why didn't God give me what I wanted?
Mm-hmm.
I see people having babies that they don't want, or they abuse and neglect.
Correct.
So I'm bitter.
Right.
And I turn my back on God. I'm done. I'm not doing this. I've been the best person I can be. I have prayed for people. I have laid on the floor. I have fasted. Yes. I have lived a godly life. And you're not going to give me what I want.
Yeah.
So I'm done with you.
You're married by this point, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
married for several years at this point.
You're two people. This took. This had to be a conscious decision on both of y'all. So, did it weigh heavy on you and then affect him, or vice versa, or how did this occur?
So he has his own story of abandonment and his own things. And when we met, he didn't want children. But working with the youth and being around kids and stuff at that time, that desire had started in him.
Yeah.
And he wanted children at this point as well. Probably not as bad, but he wanted children because he's the last of his blood. He's the last of his name.
I got you.
So that desire was there for him to keep his bloodline alive.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't fully turn his back on God like I did.
Oh. So you were the colder of the two.
Yes.
That pendulum swings both directions.
Yeah. I was the most bitter and the most far removed because I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So we moved.
You knew that God existed. You just didn't want anything to do with him at this point.
I never denied the existence of God. Well, here's what I did deny.
Okay.
I denied calling him God.
Yeah.
There was a creator. That's what I would say. We were created.
Yeah.
But I can't say that his name is Jehovah or his name is God. But I believe that I was fearfully made and created.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's a odd paradox, I'm sure.
No, I get what you're saying. Just because you believe it don't mean it had to come out of your mouth.
Right. So, we moved back home. We live a moral life. We're not bad people. We're not out killing people. That's how you justify your actions. There's worse
comparisons.
People. Yeah, there's worse people than me. No, I'm not doing what I should be doing, but there's worse people than me.
Yeah.
So we moved back home in 2010, 2011. So from 2007 till probably 2009 is when I was serving God really good.
Yeah.
As an adult. So latter part of 2009, first part of 2010 is when I'm done with God.
Yeah.
So we moved back home, and of course, my mom is here. My God mom, let's call her that. She was my godly mother. She was the one who set my feet on a good foundation.
Yeah.
She was here, and she desired for me to go to church, so I'd go to church, but meh.
Okay.
I didn't really care. I didn't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I didn't feel anything, because I could feel conviction.
Correct.
But I didn't want to feel anything.
Right.
So I walled myself off. So let's fast forward, because I know time is of the essence. Let's fast forward to probably 2010. let's do 2019, 2018.
Okay.
And that's some years, but I'm just living my life.
Yeah.
Going out and drinking, just living and working, not doing anything really spectacular. Just a baseline, just a pulse, just
Yes.
a baseline pulse that's about all those years were.
Yes.
Me being far removed from God, I think did have a result on my husband. So alcoholism was abounding in our home.
Yeah. How bad was it?
It was really bad.
How bad?
To the point where I hated myself and I hated him for that reason. And it was bad. It was really bad. To the point where I didn't want to. I loved him, but I didn't like him. I hated him, and I hated me because I know that my coldness towards God had also fed over into my marriage, and I was cold towards my husband.
Okay.
And probably pushed some actions on his part for drinking.
Okay.
So 2019-ish, 2018, I'm empty.
Yeah.
I'm completely empty. Again, I love my husband, but I'm empty.
Okay.
So I look for things to make me feel alive.
Okay.
Let's feel alive because, again, the past 5 to 8 years have just been a baseline pulse of life.
Yes.
So I need to feel alive. So I get tattoos.
Yeah.
I get piercings. Different hair. Nothing.
Didn't feel it.
I mean, I feel alive for a moment, but yeah, I've never been really had an addictive personality, so drugs were never an option for me. But I felt alive for a moment, but just a moment. So then, I need something else.
Yeah.
What's going to be my next fix? So that lustful spirit starts creeping back in, and my husband knows this.
Okay.
You do not know this.
Okay.
As Shane. So I need to feel alive.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start looking at other women because
Okay.
I had a lustful spirit.
Yes.
And so I start talking to women. And
So did it come like naturally, or was it something of just a curiosity that led to?
it was a curiosity.
Okay. Okay.
It was a curiosity. So I tell my husband, like, I need to feel alive.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this.
Okay.
And I did.
Okay.
Multiple times. And again, you feel alive for a moment, but then you don't like who you look at in the mirror. You don't like who you're becoming because you know this is not who you are meant to be. This is not the steps that God has ordered for you.
That calling was like an Adam's apple in your throat. You just couldn't get. Yeah.
But I still want to feel alive. I still want to feel like I'm connected to people. So I'm connecting myself to this woman, and I'm connected to my husband.
Yeah.
And then God didn't hear me. He didn't give me the desires of my heart.
Right.
So I'm going to dabble in the occult as well. So
was there like friends or someone that influenced you to like show you, hey, this is something?
It had always kind of been in the back of my head. Witchcraft and things of that nature. So then I start collecting these crystals because they're going to make me feel alive, and they're going to.
Well, it worked for Tom Cruise. Why not?
They're gonna give me the desires of my heart.
Right.
I get a cauldron. I do all the things. I read up on herbs. I learn about how to do sigils.
And what is a sigil?
So a sigil is like markings and that like you like. Again, the desire of my heart was to have a baby.
Right.
Even during this time.
Yeah.
So, so you would like get pregnant, and you would like take pieces and parts of that from what I read.
Yes.
And whatever the internet taught me about witchcraft, because I was never too committed.
Right.
But just enough to be a little.
Yeah, involved.
Yeah. So, and you make like a symbol out of these letters. And you put it in places.
Yes.
So you put that sigil under my bed to get me pregnant.
Yes.
That didn't work. At this point, I now have a friend who's interested in witchcraft. So, and this was right before my mother passed, my godly mother passed away.
Yes.
And I don't know that she knew, but I think that she knew.
Mm-hmm.
Because she told me one time, I'm afraid that you're praising the creation more than the creator.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to hear that.
Of course.
God didn't hear me. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Right.
So we do a spell. We go out to...
Who's we?
Me and my friend.
Okay.
Not the one I was sleeping with, but another one.
Right.
So we go out to...
Thank you for straightening that out.
Yeah, of course. So we go out to the Prater's meal, and I've got these... I've got a cauldron. I've got these herbs. He's bought me these flowers.
So everyone that drove by thought y'all were doing a reenactment.
I did this cord binding, and I carved these sigils and these candles.
Yeah.
So this is what's going to give me the desires of my heart.
Right.
Didn't work.
Jeez.
So, and in this time, I've gone through all the fertility treatments and things. I've had every test done on me.
Yes.
As a woman that you can have done to see if there's something wrong with your body.
Right.
Yes, I have polycystic, but people with polycystic have babies all the time.
Yeah.
My menstrual cycle is regulated. They've done the thing with the fallopian tubes to see if there's an obstruction. Nothing. So I'm angry. God, why?
You have no answers.
I have nothing. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm even more angry at God. So I'm playing with the devil. Opening myself up to spiritual attacks
Where did you get this information? Did you just buy books on?
I bought books, and people knew that I was dabbling, so they would buy me books and send me things, and
well, how encouraging.
I know, beautiful. So in this time, my mother and my father have a horrific car wreck.
Yeah.
They're hit by a tractor and trailer. And the night that my father called me, I thought my mom had died. I thought that she was gone. Because he was like, sis, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
And because she took the brunt of the accident, the truck hit on her side of the vehicle. So, I'm still very cold and done with God. And in hindsight, I really wished, because I'm like, what if it had been me? What if I had been the one that could pray the prayer of faith?
Yeah.
But I can't carry that burden. So, she goes through rehabs. She gets better. She's able to walk. She ends up with diverticulitis.
And what is that?
It is a perforation of your colon.
Okay.
And she had to have an ileostomy. Now,
Yes.
Here's the thing. Most people in the situations that she was in with being hit by the truck, having to learn to walk again.
Yes.
Then getting knocked back down and having to have an ileostomy, having to have your husband help you change your ostomy bag.
Yes.
Having to have your husband wash you.
Yes.
Would be bitter at God.
Yes.
She never turned her back on God.
Yeah.
And that was a lesson to me.
Okay.
So she went through all these things, and she waited on God to heal her. She stood on the fact that God was going to raise her up. And on March 8th of 2021, has it been that long? Is it 2021?
It's been a bit.
It's been a while. She received perfect health. Because she went to be with her Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
And that's still really hard.
Yeah.
So
I remember one thing that night. I remember a lot of things. I remember when we got the call from you and your sister falling apart, and I called Pastor Jamie and Laura right away. And I remember them showing up there, and it was, I will never forget me sitting in the truck. As soon as we get there, my wife, your sister, makes a beeline, and I still hear her scream from the house. I can still hear
her scream
from the house.
Me too.
But in the midst of all that chaos, our pastors came all the way from Cleveland. Pastor Jamie and Laura came all the way from Cleveland, Tennessee. And do you feel like that had any impact on you at all?
So, I had passed with Pastor Jamie and Laura, just in seeing you and Sam here at church. And I had seen them, and they're always kind, but I don't know how to describe them that night. Almost like they were guards or angelic, and just the peace that they brought with them.
Yeah. Because it was total chaos.
Well, here's the thing. I had not seen my mom for 2 weeks when she passed. She had gotten out of rehab and wanted to go home, which I thought was not
she
what
was
she should have done.
Stubborn woman.
She was the most stubborn woman. And if anybody could make you crazy, she could do it. But I loved her with all of my heart. I wished I could tell her that now.
Yeah. She knows.
So she was home, and I thought, was not that she doesn't love me, but she loved my daddy.
I know.
And so I was like, let her be with my dad. Let her. I didn't think she was sick enough to pass.
Right.
So let her spend time with my dad in their home, and I'll see her. And I'm also still going through these fertility treatments.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to interject right there for a minute. I used to get so aggravated near that time because we would come over there to take care of her, and then she would be like, "I'm sorry." She'd be like, "Okay, well, bring that food and take care." I'm like, "Your husband can walk on his own legs. Sit here and eat. We're here to take care of you. He'll be fine."
But she wanted to make sure that Daddy was always taken care of.
That was her.
Yeah. So, and for those of you that don't know by now, Shane's actually my brother-in-law.
Ding, ding, ding.
But there's still pieces and parts of me as my brother-in-law that he does not know that I'm divulging to him now. And there's pieces and parts of me that my sister, who I see as my best friend, does not know, but she'll know when she hears this.
Right.
So my godly mother passes away. The cornerstone of our family in most ways. She kept us together. She was the magic behind every holiday and every birthday, for a fact. So,
and you have done well taking that over as far as making holidays feel special. You and your sister both working together, and you've done great.
Thank you so much. But that's because of what she sewed into us. That's part of our foundation. So, she passes away, and I start thinking again, what if it had been me? What if I should have been the one that prayed? Because she asked me, Jen, just pray.
Yeah.
Just pray for me. Just pray. And I would just look at her.
Yeah.
Because
I know.
I'm not the person to pray. You don't know what I'm doing outside of this rehab room that you're in. You don't want me to pray for you.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, she was asking me to fast and to see her healed.
Yeah.
You know.
Because she stood on the, but
that's not always God's plan.
No.
Not always.
It's not. But I mean,
I don't want to use that as a catch-22, if you will, or just an excuse. No. It is God's will that we are in perfect health, but also sometimes he does call us home.
Yeah. And so my last act of love for her, and if you guys knew my mother, you knew that her hair was her thing.
Yep.
Her hair had to be teased and permed up and curled.
She had that Aquanet perm that.
It was rave. It was rave.
Yeah. Oh, was it rave?
Rave.
Okay.
Yes. Silver can with the bright neon turquoise colors. So my last act of love was to do her hair for her funeral, and I talked to her body the entire time I'm doing her hair.
You and her sister both were, weren't you?
Yeah, we
Jeez.
talked to her and told her how much we loved her, and I know that that's just her body.
Of course.
That was not my mother. We painted her nails and held her hand because we didn't get to say goodbye.
Yeah.
So the day, this is gonna make me cry.
Yeah.
Lord. So the day of her funeral, I've got her looking great. She looks like she's ready to stand up and preach.
Yeah.
And she's got her preaching Bible under her arm. And Jeff preaches her funeral, and they're ready to close the lid. So we're getting
Jeff who?
Jeff Johnson.
Okay.
From A Place to Worship. I sat under him at the age of 19, and that's where I received the Holy Ghost with evidence of speaking in tongues. Easter of that year. So we're gathering the things that we're going to not bury her with.
Yeah.
And I knew throughout my adolescence, through prayer time at 12 noon every day in the summertime and everything, that she wanted me to have her Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So I take her Bible from her arm and I tell her, I will make you proud.
Yeah.
So this is March, so May of that year. And it's like I can't even remember the year, but it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years because it was the day after Solomon's first birthday.
Yes.
So I knew that she would want me in church for Mother's Day. So to honor her, I come to church. I come to Lifegate to be with my sister and honor my mother. And I'm sitting with tears because I miss my mom. And a word in tongues comes out. And I don't know if you remember this or not. Pastor Jimmy interpreted it. And it said, you think you're here for your mom to honor her, but you're here for God.
Wow.
And I was like, and so I remember turning and grabbing Sam's hand.
Yeah.
Because I can't go to the altar alone.
Yeah.
You know,
Can I interject there for a second? What's so crazy is Pastor Jamie knew nothing about the conversation that you and I had. I don't know if you remember the conversation, but you had told me that sometimes in the past that you had kind of done churchy stuff to feel accepted.
Yeah.
And that was also one reason why you didn't just jump right in. You didn't want to just have to go to church to be accepted. But at that point, I remember telling you, from this point on, anything you do, it's not about you being accepted. You are already accepted. You do it because you know it's the right thing to do. And then for the Spirit and to be given in tongues, for the message to be interpreted as that's amazing.
So I hit my knees. I pray my prayer. So that's been 2 years ago. So throughout her being sick and all the things, the desire of my heart is still to have a child.
Yeah.
So October of
God ended up working on your husband through this process too.
yes, he came back to God. He gave his heart over, and that was, I remember, and I don't know if I've ever shared this with you guys. So I gave up everything, but my husband's still drinking and living that life. And, not that he was a bad man, but he liked to drink.
Yeah.
And, so he is sloshed one day and I'm cleaning house and listening to praise and worship and it's raining.
Yeah.
And this thing.
I'm going to interject here for a second. I want to be real with people, okay? Before I came back to God, you're talking about, him drinking. you probably know this as well. Holidays sometimes were chaotic.
Oh,
And
yeah.
me, your dad, and Heath would both be on the front porch sipping moonshine just to get through the family holidays.
Yeah, because it was stressful.
Yeah. That was, once again, that's before I came back to God. But
Yeah. Yeah. So, he's probably pretty tipsy. And I'm believing God for my husband because I grew up. I know the scripture. I know that the unsaved husband is sanctified by the praying wife.
That's right.
So here I am, and I'm like, I also know the gifts that are within him.
Yeah.
I see the potential. I know who God has called him to be, even on the days that he doesn't. And I think that's what a wife really does.
Absolutely.
So, Jeremy Camp, I think it's a Jeremy Camp song, but I was listening to it, and it was raining, and Let It Rain.
Yeah.
And I made him come and stand in the rain on our porch.
Yeah.
And the gift of the Spirit came over me, and I know in my heart I was proclaiming to everything, every devil, every demon in hell, that he was God's. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't much longer. It was the first Wednesday service here at Lifegate. He came, and I knew that was his service.
Yeah.
My whole spirit knew that was his service. And he went up for prayer, which if you guys know my husband, he's a man of very little words.
Yeah.
And even littler action. He's not going to do a whole lot to draw attention to himself.
His words to me, not to skip ahead, but I got the honor of praying that sinner's prayer with him, and he just looked at me and said, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to pray.
I love his whole heart.
Yeah.
So, this is probably August, September of 21 that we're looking at right now, right? Yeah.
You're better at this stuff than I am. I don't keep up with these things. I'm just here.
Well, I think it's a woman thing. So October, it had to be, October of 23.
A woman can always keep up with the time, but she's never on time.
We're at your house.
Okay.
For a prayer meeting.
Oh.
And it's us and several other of the young adults and Cameron. And so we're sharing our testimonies as to who we are.
Yes.
So I'll share a little bit about mine and Heath's testimony.
Yes.
Who we are, and that the desire of our heart has to always been to have children.
Yeah.
And we've been married since 2007. Mm-hmm. And it's 2023.
Yeah.
We've never been pregnant. We've never had a pregnancy scare.
Yeah.
We've never seen those little lines on a pregnancy test.
Yeah.
We've been through all the hoops. There are no answers really as to what or why. So here I am sharing this and, just telling who we are. And we pray, that God will open up my womb to receive and Heath's seed to plant all the things. We're saying the prayers. So this is October. Yeah, late October or late September, early October. And December 1st, I remember the day. I actually went back and looked at the messages. That's one of the reasons I remember. December 1st, after this prayer meeting, my husband comes to me. He's worked at a very toxic place for the past year prior to that. One that made him question who he was, if he was good enough, if he was enough, because it's a toxic boss.
Grinded constantly.
Yeah. You
I've been there.
It was awful.
Yeah.
So he's finally left this boss, and he's been at this other place for 3 months, and he's thriving. He's enjoying it. The passion for what he did at that time was back. The confidence in who he was as a man and his knowledge.
This is where he turned into, this is when he became foreman also, right?
Correct. Well, he was a foreman prior, but he was a foreman by title, not by anything else. So, the passion for heavy equipment came back.
Yeah.
if you want something on grade, the man can look at it and tell you.
Right.
So
Yeah, he's a very smart person.
He's one of this. He's scary smart, scary smart. But so that passion came back for that field, and he's happy, and he's content, and I'm happy, and we're thriving, and we're walking with God, and we're building our life on God.
Yeah.
At this point, 17 years into our marriage.
Better late than ever.
Right. So this is December 1st, and he sends me a cryptic text.
Yes.
And I'm like, something's up.
Okay.
My wife's spidey senses went off.
Yes.
So he comes and he brings me food to work, and I said, just tell me. And he's like, they're closing the doors.
Wow.
He's like, he's having the owner of the business is having health issues due to all the stress.
Yeah.
And he's shutting the doors.
Yeah.
And as of today, I have no job.
That day, Sam and I were not managing the TV station yet. We were approaching that, but he showed up at our work, and I'm like, he's here, and he sat down, and what's so funny is like me, me. It's like I've discussed things like some people can write a book, they're very descriptive and go into detail. I'm more like, let's write a manual straight to the point. So like if it was me delivering this message, it'd be like, how are you? Hey, well, this is what happened. He sits there and talks with us for like 30 minutes. Then, well, by the way, I got this news today. I'm like, Heath, that means you don't have a job. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Believe me, it's be married to him. That's frustrating. I'm like,
let's get down to the meat of this. Give me bullet points.
That's me and you.
Me and you. Yeah.
Land the plane. Get to the point.
Absolutely.
I don't need all the details. What's going on?
No.
So
we don't need to do barrels. Let's just
for a fight.
Point A to point B.
So this is lunchtime. It's a Friday, because on Fridays at that job, I got to leave at 3.
Yeah.
So this is lunchtime. He tells me, hey, look, after today, I don't have a job. So then I'm leaving, and you call me.
Yeah.
And you said, hey, can you talk? And I said, I'm on the way to the truck. Let me get in the truck. For some reason, I had drove the truck that day, and we can talk. And you're like, okay. So I get to the truck, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And you're like, so Cameron called me today, and her mom's friend has these 2 little girls.
Yeah.
That they had gotten back in May, and he's having some health issues, and he's his heart's not great, and they don't feel like that they need to take care of these girls any longer.
Yeah.
What do you and he think about it? And I didn't talk to my husband yet.
You started crying?
I started crying. I started sobbing.
And you did not ask one thing about them girls?
I did not. But...
And you said the words, of course we will.
Of course we will. And my spirit clicked. Not that we hadn't thought of adoption or fostering and things prior, but it never felt right.
Yeah.
It never clicked in my spirit. That clicked.
Yeah.
So I say, of course we will. And I drive home and I'm crying and I'm praying and I'm like, God, I don't know what's going on. My husband just lost his job. And
isn't that just like God, though? He waits and drops something after all of these years, right on the day where there is the most financial uncertainty ever, just to put in your face, be like, you know what, watch me.
Yeah.
You sit back. I'm going to do this. You're going to just use your faith, and I'm going to use my hands, and that's how God operates.
That's exactly how this past year has been. So this was December 1st of 2023. Yeah. So the girls are in Kansas. I get in touch with their aunt that has them. Hey, what's going on? So-and-so told me about the girls. Let's connect later. So then I get home and I talk to my husband, and I'm slowly getting details about the girls.
Yes.
And I say, what do you think? And the man of very little words that he can be.
Yeah.
He said, what are their names?
Uh-huh.
And I said, I looked back at my messages and I said, well, it's
Thing 1 and thing 2.
Yeah.
What does it matter?
Brielle and Brala. And I said, why is that your only question?
Yeah.
He said, because there's power in a name.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to pray for this,
Yeah.
I want to speak their names and
Yeah.
speak life.
Mm.
So,
Say that again.
and speak life.
Mm-hmm.
So, we did. And we
You spoke life in your situation.
We spoke life into something that I never saw coming. Here's the point blank fact. Where I am now is never where I saw myself, especially at the age that I am, because I'm considered a geriatric mother. Do not look at me like that. So I never saw this. I had, even though I wanted a child, I had also kind of came to a reserve that if it didn't happen, it didn't happen.
Right.
So we pray, we speak with the aunt and the uncle that have them, we FaceTime them, and at that time, Brielle was almost nonverbal.
Yeah.
So she could repeat the things that you told her to say, but she could not articulate a thought of her own other than probably juice.
Yeah. And the girl is very intelligent. It
Yes.
just, I believe that the conclusion that we possibly have come to, that there have been times in her life that maybe there was not enough interaction.
Yeah. So prior to May of 2023, the aunt and uncle did not have them. So there's that gap.
Yeah.
So we pray, we talk, Bryla was turning 2 at the time, and we send gifts, and then,
I remember this being very sudden, and Sam and I scrambling to go to the store in the midst of all of the chaos to make sure that we have Christmas gifts, because y'all are coming to our house. And
so now it's mid-December, probably December 16th, 17th, and they're coming back from Kansas because they live here locally. Their family is from here locally, but the uncle is a minister and he was in Kansas. Mm-hmm. So we scramble as well, and we get Christmas together for them, and then the first night we meet them, we bring them to your house.
Yeah.
Because you guys are our family. You're in the situation where we know that we need prayer. We know that we need someone to seek God for us.
Yeah.
We're going to turn to you guys.
Right.
So we bring them there and they play. And I don't know if I've ever told you this. So at that night when we took them back, the aunt and the uncle were going to stay in a camper on some friend's property until the house that they were going to rent was ready.
Gotcha.
So Brielle clung to me that night.
Yes.
And when we got back to the camper that they were going to stay in, she followed me to the door.
Yes.
And she was crying.
Yeah.
Just not boohoo crying, but just quiet quiet tears.
Yes.
And I turned to her and I pinky promised. I said, I pinky promise.
Yeah.
I will always come back for you.
Yeah.
And I meant that with all of my being.
Yes.
So, fast forward, because
you saw yourself inside that little girl.
I did.
That sphere of abandonment.
I still see myself, and I don't know all the things that she may have seen in her short 4 years. I have no idea all the things that she may have seen.
But there's similarities.
But I know that she knows.
Yeah.
She knows that somebody left her.
Yes.
She knows what that feels like. So I see a lot of me in her.
Yeah.
So, fast forward so we get the girls. January 20th, we met with the aunt and the uncle. And she said, do you want to get the girls for a few days? And nothing was specified as to what a few days meant.
Of course.
So, of course, we'd love to. We hadn't seen them since Christmas. There's been some, miscommunications and stuff between us. And so, of course, we'd love to see them.
Right.
Because we fell in love with them before we met them.
Yes.
We knew what God was doing. So we get them, and October 1st of 2024, they were legally adopted.
Yeah.
They are now Pages.
Yes.
So they are Brielle and Bryla Page. And as
so there's new pages to your chapter.
new pages to the, yeah. So as we record this, we're actually setting up for Bryla's third birthday that we'll have tomorrow.
Yeah.
And these are moments that I never really thought would happen because I was bitter and mad at God and didn't understand why he had brought me to this place and not given me the desires of my heart.
Yes.
I didn't see the desires of my heart coming, but in one way. I had a singular view of what God could do and how he could do it for me.
But he's multifaceted.
And I didn't see.
Yeah.
I never saw these girls coming. That singular view blinded me to the goodness of God.
Lack of faith causes us to look on a flat plane.
Very true.
But God's the God of the mountains is the God of the valleys.
Yeah. And so I am no longer bitter. I am overflowing with joy. It's been a learning experience, but
I'm going to interject here and speak about what a difference that I've seen, because I knew that as soon as y'all's mother had passed, God had already told me that God was going to use this and you were going to come back to church. And Sam knew it too. Sam went through her own issues with losing her mom, and she did not, I think that, and maybe she'll come up here and tell her own testimony too sometime, that she was bitter that it would, that God would have to use something like this to bring you back, not bitter towards you, but just, that why, couldn't God do it a different way? But, I'm not going to go jumping into her testimony. But the times that we have sat here, and I've seen God use you and Heath and y'all spiritually develop and just like worshiping God, coming to God's house. And the pendulum swings both directions, as I said. And you've always been a very good influencer, and the same people that used to be a little bit wild with, you started witnessing to them, bringing them to church, inviting them to church, and people come to church and stuff. I mean, it's absolutely wild,
I mean, one of them's helping us sit up right now, and the reason that she became my friend is because I heard her call the copy machine at the place we worked a really ugly, dirty name, and I was like, "That's my kind of people."
Wait, what name was that? Oh, wait! It's one of those podcasts we can't say that.
Yeah. So, but
and wasn't she? If I remember right, wasn't she into some of the same things that you were at one point?
So I remember. God, if she listens to this, she might be.
Well, we're leaving her nameless.
But she knows who she is.
Yes.
I remember when she interviewed at the place that we worked at together.
Yeah.
And I knew there was a darkness in her. I could see it. I could feel it. When she walked to the window and said, "I'm here for my interview," I was like, ooh. And not going to church, living a very, very terrible life.
Yeah.
My spirit still recognized.
Of course.
Her.
Yeah.
And she called the printer, the copier, a really ugly word. And I was like, she's going to be my friend. And she has been. She has an amazing testimony of her own.
Yeah.
But I have a pea head or something. I don't know. These things are sliding off my head.
She's trying to adjust her headphones.
So I do apologize if you guys hear that.
It's fine.
On top of me crying and all the fun things.
It pushed your sunglasses that are on your head, even though it's like 10 o'clock at night, and it looks like you've got 4 eyes.
Look, they're a headband at this point. But
resourceful.
Yeah. She's helping me set up for a daughter's birthday party that I never thought I'd have. So that's how God works. She
doesn't know, but I'm going to try to get her on Speak Live soon, too, because I'm very proud of her. I've been doing a testimony class, and it's basically getting people comfortable with sharing their testimonies. And she came out there, and I didn't really expect her just to throw it out. I mean, but she spilt her guts and like said she was very brave and discussing things that she's been through. And, so it's, yeah, like you said, she does have a powerful testimony.
She does. She does. She's come through a whole, I mean, she's came out of a lot.
Yeah.
And she's one of the strongest women I have ever met.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing that woman cannot do.
Oh, I know. I'm going to put it to you like this. I'm a handyman and I'm able to do things. Okay, like when the air conditioner went out in my house, I was able to replace the thing that was some years back and stuff. But even though I can do these things, I get bored sitting there doing these things. But like even Sam, she knows of Esther's abilities. That there was something simple I had to do to Sam's car one time. I'm like, it was something like changing the brakes. I said, Sam, I know I could do it. I said, but I just, it's boring doing it. She said, well, call Esther. She can help you out with it.
For a fact, there's nothing the woman cannot do.
Right.
She will build a house. I skipped over the part with getting the girls. In our life of sin and despair and depression and bitterness, our house was terrible. My husband had been remodeling our house for multiple years. With very little leeway because he worked so much, number one, that by the time he got home from working a job that was killing him as a person, he had no want to
of course,
to do anything else. So we had just had a new roof put on, but we had the room that the girls currently occupy, the ceiling had caved in. And
hold on, I gotta share my side of this. This was the part where he still had not come quite back to God yet, okay? And he was having a day. Because I remember the rain came in hard, and then the ceiling did come in. Yeah. It just came through. I drove, you said, Shane, go check on my husband. As I'm pulling into your driveway, the ceiling was the problem. But I was able to look through the wall and see your husband through the wall because, he had gotten aggravated and taken an axe. And just like
axe?
He was throwing, he had an axe. He was throwing something into the wall, and I showed up, and he was throwing stuff out the window. He had taken an axe, and it was like he was sticking it in the wall, and you could.
Oh, there's still a hole there.
There's still a hole there.
I mean, it's taped up.
Oh, it's taped up,
and you can't see into the house any longer. But there's still a hole in the siding.
Well, thank goodness it's taped up.
Well, you can't see.
But all of this was because he got fed up and was drinking a little bit. So
yeah. Well, and like I said, I knew that was his Wednesday. But he continued to still have his days.
Yes, of course.
He gave his heart to God, but
it's a process sometimes.
That addiction was a lot stronger than what he, I'm sure, thought.
Yeah.
And he did give his heart to God, but he continued to struggle in giving that up.
Yeah.
Until we actually got the girls.
Yeah.
Until he laid eyes on them and realized that he didn't want to be that father.
Yeah.
And seeing them and them clinging to him, he didn't want to be that influence on them.
Yes.
And he laid it down.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that he told you yesterday at Thanksgiving. He was like, y'all don't realize it, but this is my first Thanksgiving sober. And
he did.
Not that I hadn't.
Well, I mean, I told you what we used to do back in our wild day. His wild day lasted just a little longer than mine, but still, yeah.
Yeah, and not that I didn't realize that he was sober.
Yeah. Because
he has been sober for a while. I don't think I realized it yesterday that it was his first Thanksgiving sober.
Let me tell you something. It was. I had a couple moments with him yesterday. It was very nice just having, Friendsgiving. It's something that you and your sister had started. And we started off praying for him, because he was having a physical issue. And just randomly after that, I went and just kind of pat him on the back. And then, next thing I know, he's basically grabbing me and hugging me, and it's just big old Heath doing something like that. And I know this is funny. But, and I'm going somewhere with this, that when you start making changes in your life, that a lot of times your inner circle gets smaller.
Oh yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's so small. Sometimes you may only have one person there, maybe two at the most. But like when I remembered throughout my past of my life, before God started making me drop people off, there was someone in particular that I was close to, and I would sit there. We would play video games as young men, and like I would just prop my feet up on them. That's how close we were. This is a person I used to go hunting with. I used to go camping with, and I'm talking about like being out there in the woods for days. Just riding motorcycles, dirt bikes, four wheelers, all of that stuff, sharing those things. And your husband was sitting over there after I got done taking a nap, and he was sitting over there in the I guess it was the love seat. And I was just kind of propped back after we ended up having Thanksgiving, and I just threw my leg on him. Felt comfortable enough to do, and he didn't act weird about it or anything. It's just that's family.
But y'all are brothers.
That's family.
I mean, we have bonded over the years over multiple things, but the tie that bonds us most now is our love of God and knowing where He's brought us from.
Yeah. And
working together for a common vision of speaking life into the kingdom and bringing souls in. And like I said, my husband is not a man of a lot of... Okay. He is a man of a lot of words when he's trying to tell you a story and you just want him to get to the point. But he's not a boastful man.
No.
He's not a look at me man. He is a behind the scenes watching kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we were talking about when I said, your fruit's not for you.
Right.
Because we were talking about getting involved, and he's like, I don't know where to get involved. Sometimes I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, you just do.
Yeah.
We've taken our time as far as establishing what connections within the church.
Yeah.
And we're slow to do so, but I think a lot of that is just
going at your own pace.
Yeah, well, and our apprehension of okay, are we good enough? There's still that question. For a fact, I know that with him. With me, I am what I am.
Yeah.
And I will get in the trenches and work with you. I'll do anything I can to help you.
Well, allow me to address something, and that's the preacher side coming out of me right now. Was Moses good enough?
See, that's
and God asked him to be what? A mouthpiece. The dude had a stutter. Okay, so go to Pharaoh. That's the person that God called to go be the mouthpiece to Pharaoh. One of the most probably intellectuals, in all of Egypt. The most educated, and told Moses, someone who at that point, I mean, he could have called anybody. He called the one that murdered an Egyptian that was raised up in Pharaoh's court, ran off for his life, and said, I want you to go back. God's calling. It's without repentance, and it's rarely convenient.
Yeah.
But you are enough. It's not you. It's the Jesus that's inside of you.
I think that I know that.
Yeah.
Within myself. I think for him, it is just, I'm not sure. I feel like I know it because of the mother that raised me.
Yeah.
She was very much influenced by Catherine Kuhlman.
Yeah.
And you know that as well.
I do.
And I remember, and I wished I could speak the way that she would speak, but Mom would talk about she had been praying that God would make her a vessel. A worthy vessel.
Yeah.
And she said she was watching Catherine Kuhlman. And if you guys don't know who that is, look her up. She was wonderful. And she wore these big bell butterfly sleeves. Mm-hmm. And so Mom said she saw her move her arm out and that sleeve flow. And she said, God's not looking for vessels of silver and gold. And Mom said, it got my attention. Like, okay, God. She said, God's looking for a yielded vessel.
Your mother originally was praying to be a vessel of silver and gold. And then Catherine Kuhlman had said that.
Yeah. And so it's yielding to what God is calling to you. It's not being that gold vessel or that silver vessel. It's being able to be a broken vessel.
You know what the problem with gold and silver is?
What?
It reflects its environment, and we are to be going into the world, and what reflection we need to be reflecting is God. And when gold is at its purest, it is absolutely transparent.
Yeah.
And His love and His light needs to shine through us unhindered, unencumbered.
So
Silver is one of the priciest and best conductors of electricity, and gold is even more so. But people don't use that; it's very expensive. But the purest that we are, the more that He can shine through us.
Mm-hmm. So I think with Him, it's just learning, just to yield, just to be yielded to God, that voice.
That's right.
And stepping out in that, whatever it may be for Him.
We are running out of time here, and what I want to do is, if anybody's listening that does not know God, and you are not 100% sure that that if Christ was to come back, that you would be ready, I want you to say this prayer with me. Heavenly Father, thank you for dying on the cross for my sins. I accept you as my Lord and Savior. I give my life wholly to you. God, just take me, Lord. I may not be a vessel of silver and gold, just like they said in the Bible, silver and gold have I none, but such as I give unto thee. God, you've given us life and life more abundantly. Lord, let these people accept you, Lord, as their Lord and Savior, and declare your name in Jesus' name. And it's literally that easy. Jennifer, thank you for sharing your testimony.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for being with us. God bless. Speak Life has been brought to you by Whitfield Murray Casa. Would you like to encourage a child in foster care? You can make a real difference in a child's life and help them thrive by becoming a CASA volunteer. Court-appointed special advocates are child-focused volunteers, especially trained to support and protect the best interests of kids in foster care. You can become part of the local team of good neighbors by joining the next volunteer training. Call Murray Whitfield CASA or visit Murray Whitfield CASA on Facebook. If you're looking for a unique, child-focused volunteer opportunity, this is it. And by Grant's Golf & More. For Dalton's best selection of golf supplies, come to Grant's Golf & More. All of your top brands for clubs and equipment from pre-owned to brand new, including Strixon balls. You can be fitted on site using their state-of-the-art golf simulator. Grant's Golf & More is also your go-to for trusted club repair, conveniently located on Cleveland Highway in Dalton Village Shopping Center. And also by Honey Baked Ham, the perfect place for your holiday party trays, office parties, gift cards, family holiday dinners. Honey Baked Ham is a great place for a quick lunch. Also come in and grab Honey Baked Ham's Take and Bake Sliders. Your family will be thankful you did. Honey Baked Ham can be located on West Walnut Avenue, Dalton, Georgia, and Brahmans Plaza, or call 706-277-4966 to place your order.